This is how CSS units work, so let's go. Firstly, pixels. Pixel is a small dot or square that makes up an image on the screen. It is however different than in CSS. There's this thing called the device pixel ratio, where one CSS pixel can equal to 1 to 4 device pixels depending on the device. So one CSS pixel doesn't necessarily mean one device pixel. I will refer to CSS pixel moving on as this is what you will be using in web development. Now here's the difficult part. Imagine you're watching a TV or looking at your phone. The TV is further than your phone unless you are crazy to look at your TV in a close distance. Then you may be asking, how does the distance of your device relate to pixel? Good question. If you look at an element with pixel sizing at both the TV and the phone, the elements will look roughly the same. Which means if you have a larger device, it doesn't necessarily mean the element will look bigger. Same goes for smaller devices. So it is not scalable, it's just fixed. Pixel is useful for precise sizing, such as borders or precise paddings, etc. Now let's make elements scalable. By the way, I created a Discord community for beginner or advanced web programmers. There will be daily challenges, people who are interested in web programming, and if you need any help, I'll be there. Feel free to join, link in the description down below. Secondly, EM. EM is used to size elements based on the font size of the parent element. Think of EM like a multiplier. If the font size of the parent element is 10 pixels, setting the font size of the children elements to 2 EM will make each font size to 20 pixels. When you set the font size of the paragraph to 2 EM, if the font size of the div is 10 pixels, the resulting font size of the font will be 20 pixels because 10 pixels multiplied by 2 EM is equal to 20 pixels. If the div has no font size, the paragraph will then go to the next parent to find the font size there. In this case, going to the next parent means it's the font size of the browser, which is 16 pixels by default. Thus, the font size of the paragraph will be 32 pixels. EM is useful for padding, margin, or font sizes, as the spacing can scale together with the parent element. If let's say the parent element got bigger, the entire thing scales together. Here's another catch. EM stacks, meaning if there's a div and a paragraph inside it, if the font size of the div is 2 EM, it will be 32 pixels because 2 multiplied by the default 16 pixels of the browser. And if the font size of the paragraph is 2 EM, the resulting font size will be 64 pixels because 32 multiplied by 2 EM will result to 64 pixels. So this will continue and continue and continue if you continue to use 2 EM or whatever EM. So be careful of this. Thirdly, RAM. RAM is used to size the elements based on the font size of the root element, which is usually the HTML tag. RAM is similar to EM where it is a multiplier, but instead of multiplying the value of its font size to the font size of the parent element, you multiply it to the font size of the root element, which is usually 16 pixels. So if the font size of the paragraph is 2 RAM, the resulting font size will be 32 pixels. And good news, it doesn't stack. So if the paragraph is inside a div, the resulting font size will still be 32 pixels even if the div has a font size of maybe 20 pixels or something, as it is based on the root element. However, the font size of the root element can also be changed by writing the following codes instead of just purely 16 pixels. So you can change from 16 pixels to anything you want. RAM is useful for anything that you need for consistent scaling, meaning that elements like text, button, images resizes in a way that it feels natural and predictable across different screen sizes and devices. So the whole site will look balanced no matter what device or zoom level the user is on. All the units so far is based on the font size of the parent element or the root element. So now let's move on to the units that scales based on the actual size of the parent elements. The next one, percentage. This is simple enough to explain. Percentage is based on the parent element size. Let's say a paragraph is inside a div with a width of 20 RAM. Setting the width of the paragraph to 50% will make the width of the paragraph to 10 RAM. Pretty simple. But I recommend specifying the size of the parent element before you use percentage. And last but not least, viewport height and viewport width. Viewport height and width is based on the size of the screen. 1 VW is 1% of the viewport width. 1 VH is 1% of the viewport height. But there's a catch. On mobile devices, the viewport sizes is influenced by the address and the tab bars. The element size to 100 viewport height, for example, can bleed out downwards of the viewport. But if there is tab retracted when scrolling down, the elements will then cover the entire screen. The same goes with the scroll bars at the side. To mitigate this, you can use DVH as a unit for dynamic size, meaning 100 DVH will fill the visible part of the screen, not hiding anything behind the bars when they are expanded, while also fill the screen while the bars are retracted. So yeah, these are all the CSS units explained. Anyways, that's my opinion. Bye.